It's some people really recover. I believe we're evolving to the place where more and more, maybe all of us will be able to. But I also want to hold a space for the folks who have a different journey to make.
For sure. Yeah, and I think it's a really important point because, I've lost people in recent years that, you would not want to, and you would, hopefully offer them healing and you would send them healing. But, for a start, you have to be slightly careful with that because it's they've got to give you permission basically to do
Right.
this, right?
Right.
But
Darn straight.
but it goes deeper than that as well because um, if it is your life path, and this is, we all come in with a contract, right? This is what we want to achieve in this lifetime, and I know this might go beyond a lot where a lot of people think about it, but this is what my learning is that we come in with a soul contract, we come in with a life plan, but that also has an end date. It has an expiry date.
Mm.
Now, not just one. There could be, but there will be exit points. Now, it could be that I've decided that age 68 that I am going to die of cancer. Now, when it comes to and that's an absolute, and I've decided that's the last day I want to go. By then, I want to go. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter how much healing anybody gives me, or surgery, or chemo, or anything. I'm going at 68, right? And people will say, well, hang on a second. Yeah, but he was into this and he was into spirituality. And how could it be that this obviously is, it's not, you've got to realize there is a point at which we have chosen pre-selected to say, okay, this is the now, okay, you might have seven potential end dates. Depending how you're doing, you make a decision at a not at a conscious level,
Right. Right. Right.
at
Yeah.
that higher consciousness level, who can see that higher consciousness level that understands everything in the big picture.
That's it. That's it. That's, two things. And don't let me forget, I want to talk about healing and cure in a moment, but that thing about the endpoints. I went to a psychic probably 20, 30 years ago, and she did something that was really inappropriate. And you and I'll talk about psychic etiquette at some point because, oh my gosh, was that a mess in Santa Cruz? You're in the store and somebody comes up to you and says, oh, you have ovarian cancer. You better go to your doctor. And it's like, go away. Like, ugh. Um, she told me when I was going to die. Now, I didn't ask her for that. I had given her no permission. And and then now it's like stuck in my head. So I actually had to do some healing work to get rid of that. But when I was talking to a guide, what the guide said is that what she was picking up is that if everything stays exactly the same that it is now,
Hmm.
this would be a launching time for you.
Mm.
But if so, she's seeing who you are right now when I was like 40 and where I was going. She said, as you continue on your journey and you're continuing to shift and grow, if on some spirit level, if you want, well, that's no longer the ending point. It can be if I choose that.
Yeah.
But I never heard anybody say that what you just said before, John, about the different jumping off points. So that really resonated for me because that's what my guide said. It's kind of like when you do the tarot. There's the card at the top, which is what spiritually is trying to happen. And then the last card in the Tree of Life is if everything stays the same, this is where we're going, and
Mm.
for whatever period we're asking for. And then you want to look at these two cards. How are they in relationship to each other? And if they don't relate, what you do is you go back through the other cards and find now where's the place where I might want to do some work because here's the place where what spirit is trying to do and where I'm going can be adjusted a little bit or maybe a lot to bring these two uh, uh, into be coordinated together. I remember one for me was there was some unfolding that was trying to happen, and the last card was a block. And when I went back, I identified the card that represented a relationship that I needed to step out of because every time I tried to grow, this person, in fact, the image I got when I was thinking about him was he took me under his wing. Now,
Mm.
he first took me under his wing to help me learn and grow. This is my first hypnotherapy teacher who's brilliant. Um, but when I started to grow up beyond that wing and it was time for me to start to fly, wham,
All right.
the wing came down again. So so I think that must be about when we choose to leave too. If we keep doing our work, there are different points. And as you've said so often, death is not a mistake and it's not a bad thing and it's not a failure.
Mm-mm.
So there's another piece I want to bring in, Bernie Siegel, the difference between healing and cure, which I found helpful for people who are in a dying process. Um, he said that cure is the actual physical recovery. Healing is psychological, spiritual, energetic, and sometimes people don't receive a physical cure, but they experience a profound healing. I mean, I haven't experienced this myself, but I have friends who do hospice work. And I have a friend who's a clergy person in hospitals, and he said, there are some people, and you walk into the room of somebody who's dying, and they're not physically cured, but the room is like radiant. It's like the nurses would just go and want to hang out there
Yeah.
because the healing into wholeness was happening. And so sometimes there's a cure and healing. Sometimes there's healing and no cure. I actually met one person who got a cure and there wasn't healing because he was still as big a jerk as he was before he healed. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not fair. If I was in charge, that wouldn't happen. But there you
But,
go.
but the word that came to my mind when you were going through that description there about, the nurses want to go and hang out in that room, it's a sense of inner peace that that person has found.
Yes, yes.
That's what it is, and
And
that's radiating.
and this joy, this joy, this joy, this joy that can say yes to life, that can say yes to life and to death because we know it's a transition. It's this radiant, peaceful capacity to be with what is
Yes.
and welcoming what is from this place of light. It's remarkable. I hope when it's my turn to die that I get to die in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you think about it as well, if we think about what inner peace means to us, it's that you're no longer striving, right? That we call it like a ho'oponopono kind of thing. It's that zero kind of point, right?
Okay.
It's But I think that that is also a really good way to think about when we get confronted by things that are going on in the world which are unpleasant, and we talk about staying on the eagle's perch, right? Find your joy within. But
Yes,
also, even if you can't find joy, if you can find inner peace,
yes, yes.
right? That is a healthy state
That's
of
right.
mind.
That's right.
Because we can't always
That's
look
right.
at something that's going on out there and think joy, but if we can find inner peace, because we know there is a process going on at the moment, we know that the planet is being elevated, we know
Yes,
that the frequencies are going up, and as the frequencies go up, so do ours, because we are part
yes,
of Mother Earth.
yes.
We have to. The bottom line is, but some people will struggle with that because they're stuck in the density and they're stuck in the drama and they're kind of busy watching this unfold
Right,
and going into fear, anger,
right,
which is
right.
which is kind of what the powers that were want them to do,
That's
right?
it.
The
That's it.
story is
That's it.
being fed to them, and
That's it.
unfortunately, we have to be careful what we ingest, you
That's
know?
right. That's
You've
right.
you've got to do it. You've got to look after yourself, which means that if that means that you have to kind of like break that diet of the news, right? Switch it off. Mainstream media news is toxic, right?
Right, right.
It's designed to feed us a diet that is supposed to trigger us.
That's right. That's right. And keep us activated and energized. And I mean, even the way that, you can read about how social media was designed. And the designers, many of whom will not let their children be on social media, by the way, um, actually studied the brain and studied the part of the brain that is addictive and I might have shared this with you before, but a long time ago, somebody said to me, "Who benefits when the light workers are exhausted?"
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I know for me, being in here in the States, um, I have several people that if some religious person has gone totally off the rails, I belong to something called Faithful America. They will let me know, and I'll know who to write, where to send money, who to call, and just say, this is not in alignment with whether it's Buddha, Jesus, or whatever. Um, I send money to the ACLU. God bless those people. They are called to be on the front lines. But I have to be watching things that are uplifting because otherwise I get, in fact, next time we talk about love, I want to talk about the difference between that second chakra that absorbs and then can be knocked off its perch
Mm.
and the heart that can bear witness in this deep place of real caring, but doesn't get triggered and pulled into the maelstrom. Because you're right. It's like there's all this stuff that's about keeping us distracted, looking over here instead of over here, being agitated instead of being peaceful, being needy, greedy instead of content. I mean, if you look at the qualities of elevation, so much in our field here is specifically calibrated to prevent us from experiencing it. You
Mm.
know, it's, and one thing I want to say too, John, about joy, um, because I make a distinction, and I'm sure you do too, between joy and happiness. You know, because happiness is like that bubbly feeling.
Yeah.
Joy is more like fourth chakra love, this steady state. And the great mystic Julian of Norwich, who she lived during the three times the plague went through Norwich. 75% of the population was wiped out in I mean, they had like piles of bodies in the street that they were having to burn. So she's living in hell, and she's able to say, and if you don't know higher consciousness, you think the woman needed treatment. Totally able to grieve and bear witness, and all is well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. That is a different consciousness. And
Yeah.
it doesn't say she didn't grieve the loss of her husband and children and friends. However, at the same time, she was in that place of trusting in
Yes.
what was happening.